If your baby seems calm in one person's arms, but immediately starts crying when held by someone else, you need to understand what this really means, because what looks like simple preference may reveal something much deeper about how a baby's brain recognizes safety. You pass your baby to someone else, and everything seems fine. They even stop crying. But when the person changes, something shifts immediately. The body tenses, the gaze changes, the crying comes back, as if, suddenly, the entire environment became wrong. And that raises the question almost every parent has asked: why does my baby only calm down with one specific person? Are they choosing someone, or do they feel something we can't see? Because from the outside, it looks like behavior. But from the inside, it looks like a system that only finds stability in one specific place. And here's the key point that changes everything. The baby is not choosing a person. They may be recognizing a regulation pattern, and that completely changes the meaning of this behavior. The most common explanation sounds too simple. They just like one person more. They bonded with someone specific. They got used to a caregiver. But that still doesn't explain the full pattern, because babies don't operate through conscious preference. They operate through physiological and emotional regulation. And this is clearly shown in classic developmental research like the still face experiment by Edward Tronick, Harvard University, 1975. In this study, something very revealing happens. When a caregiver suddenly becomes emotionally unresponsive, the baby quickly becomes distressed and disorganized, even though nothing physical in the environment has changed. In other words, it's not about who the baby likes more. It's about something much deeper, who their nervous system recognizes as predictable enough to stay regulated. And that completely changes how this behavior is understood. Because maybe there is no such thing as a favorite person. Maybe there is only the one system the brain has learned it can use as a reference for safety. Before we go deeper, subscribe to the channel and stay with me until the end, because now you're about to understand the part that changes everything. What looks like preference can completely reshape the way you see your baby's behavior from now on. And once you understand what the brain is actually doing in these moments, you'll never look at that specific person's arms the same way again. And to truly understand this, you need to recognize something essential. A baby's brain cannot regulate emotion on its own yet. It depends on something called co-regulation. This means it uses another person's nervous system as a reference point for stability. Research from the Center on the Developing Child at Harvard University, along with the work of Alan Shore on early affect regulation, highlights something crucial. Babies borrow stability from the adult nervous system. Now think about that. When a baby is held, they are not just being carried. They are being regulated. But here's the critical detail. Not every nervous system produces the same safety signal. Breathing rhythm, muscle tension, way of holding, tone of voice, micro-emotional reactions. All of this is picked up by the baby without language. And when that overall pattern feels familiar, the baby's brain downshifts into calm. When it doesn't, the nervous system shifts back into alert mode, and this explains the pattern. It's not preference, it's neurological predictability. And when you look at this from an evolutionary perspective, everything clicks into place. Because the human baby did not evolve to be independent. It evolved to survive through attachment. In John Bowlby's attachment theory, safety is not abstract. Safety is a present body, plus predictable response. For thousands of years, a baby only survived if it could quickly recognize who was safe. And this created a deep biological mechanism. The brain learns specific patterns of safety. Now think about the modern baby. They are not thinking, this person is better. They are feeling, my body can relax here, and not there. And that changes everything, because what looks like selective attachment may actually be a survival system trying to maintain emotional stability. And here is the most sensitive part to understand, because behind this behavior, there is a silent conflict happening in real time. On one side, the baby needs connection with any available caregiver to avoid emotional disorganization, but on the other, their nervous system is still deeply dependent on very specific patterns it already recognizes as safe. And this creates something subtle, but extremely important. They may accept being held by anyone. They may even stop crying for a moment, but that doesn't necessarily mean they are truly relaxed, because internally, the body can still remain in a quiet state of vigilance. Eyes alert, muscles slightly tense, attention split between comfort and uncertainty, and this creates an illusion that confuses many parents. If they stopped crying, then they're fine. But that's not always true, because stopping a reaction is not the same as being regulated. Sometimes it's just the brain reducing outward signals while still actively assessing safety. And this is not choice, not preference, not drama. It is a nervous system trying to return to the only pattern it has learned to convert into real calm. And the more you understand this, the clearer it becomes. That specific person isn't about more or less love. It's about a body that still needs predictability in order to fully rest. And when this is translated into what the baby might say, it would sound something like this. With you, my body doesn't have to guess what happens next. I don't need to stay on alert all the time. The way you hold me already tells me what comes next. And that changes everything inside me. With other people, my body still prepares itself. I don't fully know what to expect, so I can't fully relax. It's not about you being better. It's about my nervous system recognizing safety before thought even exists. And that completely changes the meaning of this behavior. Because from the outside, it looks simple, a baby preferring one person. But on the inside, it's an entire brain deciding whether it can leave a state of alert. Not choice, not preference, not over-attachment. It's regulation. It's predictability turning into safety. And maybe the most important part is this. The baby is not rejecting the rest of the world. They just still cannot relax where the world feels too unpredictable. Now, there's something many parents notice without fully understanding it. Some babies who only calm down with one specific person also go through phases where they start putting everything in their mouth. Objects, hands, clothes, everything. And that is not a coincidence, because both behaviors come from the same place. A brain trying to build safety through sensory predictability. In arms, they seek emotional stability. In the mouth, they seek sensory stability. And when you put that together, it starts to make sense. Because the baby is not just reacting to the world, they are trying to organize it from the inside out. If this kind of content resonates with you, subscribe to the channel. Because here you don't learn surface-level behavior. You learn what is actually happening inside your baby's brain. And that completely changes the way you see every reaction. Now, if you want to understand why babies constantly put everything in their mouth, click the video appearing on the screen. There you'll see how the brain uses touch and the mouth as a primary way of understanding the world, and why it goes much deeper than it seems. I'll see you there.